Greetings, horror fans. Every profession is full of surprises. Also for the cemetery guard, if only he's working on Halloween night. And I called this story, A Security Guard, on Halloween.
I have been working as a security guard at the cemetery for 2 months. It's not that I like this job, but I need to pay my bills somehow, and combining work and study isn't easy. That's why I chose to be a night watchman. From time to time, I walk around the cemetery with a flashlight, and check that no one has entered the premises. Visiting hours for the cemetery are from 8 in the morning to 9 in the evening. Everyone must leave immediately, otherwise I have to call the cops. The work isn't busy, it's completely calm. My friends were quite surprised when I told them where I would be working, thinking that this is a bad and dangerous place, but no. The salary here is good. And in the evenings, between patrolling the territory, I can prepare for exams and lectures. Halloween was approaching. According to the schedule, my replacement was supposed to be on shift, but Matt came to me a couple of days before and asked me to take over. He looked a little scared. He promised that if I replaced him, he would give me half of his salary and bring me a lot of goodies that his wife was cooking. His eyes were running, he was looking at the calendar in fright, and seemed very afraid to be here on Halloween. He asked me to replace him so desperately that I agreed. It seemed that if I refused, Matt would just quit his job and never come to this cemetery again. At least in a living form. And now, Halloween has come. I sat down in our small guard house and opened a book on the structure of human anatomy. Not far from the fence, children dressed in colorful costumes passed by. They pointed their fingers towards the graves and told each other scary stories. It was interesting to watch the passers-by that day. On All Saints' Eve, everyone looked at the graves in a special way, as if afraid that the dead would rise. But I haven't believed in fairy tales for a long time. No one can scare me with those sorts of tall tales anymore. I am a biology student, and I know perfectly well that what is dead will never start moving, and definitely won't be attacking others after getting out of their grave. Until midnight, I sat in the guardhouse and leafed through my textbook, taking notes on individual chapters. But something on the street creaked. It sounded like someone broke the lock and opened the gate. Reluctantly, I raised my head and got up from my seat. I put on my jacket and went out into the grounds. It was a cool, quiet night. There were a lot of clouds in the sky that blocked the moonlight, so I turned on the flashlight. Is there someone there? As I expected, no one answered me. Probably the creaking of branches in the wind, but once out, you need to check the cemetery. You never know, maybe someone got in here after all. I walked along the alleys between the graves, illuminating the crosses and the path under my feet with the flashlight. Slowly walking around the cemetery, I looked at the tombstones, the dates of birth and death written on them, as well as the flowers and souvenirs that relatives had left. Usually, I felt comfortable and calm here, but today there was a terrible atmosphere around me. There was an inexplicable feeling that I was being watched. It seemed that someone had forced me to go out on a patrol a little earlier, so that they could get inside later. But why? Climbing into a cemetery in the middle of the night? Who would ever come up with such a stupid idea? Other than school children and teenagers looking for new experiences. Checking the entire cemetery and finding nothing suspicious, I approached the door of the guardhouse, then heard the creak of the gate again. I heard it for sure, but decided to pretend not to notice, so as not to find myself face to face with criminals. Feeling that I was being watched, I went into the house, and without closing the door tightly, picked up a notebook and listened while pretending to read. There was a grinding noise in the street. It seemed that someone was not just walking around the cemetery, but digging. I put on my headphones and continued staring at the book. The volume on my player was at 0. Let them think that I didn't care what they were doing, that I'm listening to music, and don't notice the terrible noise. I was waiting for an opportunity, imagining how I would catch the criminals, and how the police give me a certificate for outstanding duty. The screeching grew. It seemed that those who were now on the street had a dog that dug the ground with its big powerful paws. I could hear dirt falling to the ground, and someone walking around the cemetery, their hands getting something out of the wet earth. The time has come. I put my phone in my pocket. The number for the police was on speed dial, so as soon as I call, they will arrive within a few minutes. In the meantime, I'll see what those bastards are doing. I wouldn't want to bother the cops over nothing. I got up from my chair abruptly, and ran out to the noise in the depths of the cemetery, exactly the place where the fresh graves were. As I approached, this noise intensified, the grinding on the rocky ground, the smell of freshly dug earth, someone's quiet conversations, and whispers. "Hey, gotcha." I ran out to the freshly dug graves. There were 3 guys standing near them, who were barely 18 years old. When they saw me, they took a few steps back in fright, covering their faces with their hands. Dirty, covered in dirt, with frightened eyes, they looked at me, as if I was about to stab them in the heart. One of them stepped forward.
"Excuse me. We didn't do it on purpose."
"What the hell are you doing here?" I demanded. I couldn't calm myself down. Why did these idiots decide to dig up graves? Are they crazy?
"I'm sorry, we just made a bet. That we wouldn't be scared if we saw a corpse. It's Halloween. After all sorts of monsters, zombies. So we decided to check it out."
I looked at them in confusion. So young, just teenagers. Should I forgive them? Or should I call the police? The cops would take them to the station, open a case, and tomorrow, instead of studying, I will have to spend the whole day at the station giving a statement. I sighed. "Okay guys, let's bury it all back, so that not one living soul will know what you were doing here, okay?" The thin guy nodded. The others also nodded happily. "I'll give you shovels, better than the ones you have. By the way, where are they?" One of them pointed silently. His hands were covered with bloody wounds, some of the skin had been removed. "What the hell, are you in pain?" The second guy's hands looked the same. I took a closer look at the third one, but he was hiding his right hand. His left hand was dangling lifelessly. "I think I've seen you before. What's your name?" I asked.
"You haven't seen me. It's impossible, I'm gone,"
he whispered.
"I'm just from another city."
We walked up to my guard house, and went inside. I got a couple of shovels, and turned around to the guys. "Take these, it'll be much easier." What the hell is going on? Now I could see them in the light of the desk lamp. The skin on their faces hung down, and had an earthy color. They looked at me lifelessly. One of them reached out to me, and grabbed me by my clothes.
"Gotcha."
Bloody hands grabbed me from different sides, and dragged me to the floor. Hysterical, I managed to jump a couple of feet closer to the table, and press the quick response button. "They're coming for you now. Everyone will see who you are," I shouted. I managed to dodge their tenacious hands, and ran out of the guardhouse. Grabbing a stick lying near the house, I barred the door, and ran to the tool shed. "Freaks. Damn idiots, you don't know who you're messing with," I muttered. I grabbed a hammer and nails, and began furiously hammering them into the wooden door. The yelling stopped. I ran away from the house, and rushed away to the gate to meet the police. Now they'll break the window, and chase me, I need to hurry. I ran along the alleys of the cemetery, and stopped at the very edge, in the exact place where I found these strangers. But they seemed very familiar to me. I went to the graves, and looked at the granite portraits. Rick, Ted, Jake. All three had an accident half a year ago. Maybe they walk around the world still alive, on the only day of the year when they can get up from their grave. I sighed. Several police cars stopped outside the gate. They came into the cemetery, and saw me. I had a shovel in my hands, and I told them fearfully about zombies, and the rise of the dead, escorting the cops to the guardhouse. I opened the doors, pulling out the nails I'd driven in with a crowbar. There were 3 decomposing corpses on the floor. The whole room reeked of rotting flesh. The policeman sighed, and shook his head.
What do you say your name is?
I screamed hysterically, "You don't understand. They were alive, they wanted to kill me." The cop looked at his partner.
Write that the guard went crazy, dug up the corpses, and moved them to his guardhouse. You're under arrest.
Well, now he really will have enough time to study. In prison. Tell me your Halloween story. In comments below. Fearful Halloween, everyone, and see you soon.